Hey everybody, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan, and this is Kana's Corner, and I have a very special guest sitting with me in the corner, and it will be Uncle Yo. Thank you for coming onto the show.
Greetings and beatings, 91.8 The Fan. Very nice to be here.
And we appreciate it too. And actually, you're my first comedian.
Oh wow, I wasn't aware that there were multiple.
Well, I haven't found any yet, but you can be the first. We can give you a
Works for
crown.
me. I like breaking ground.
And now I'm curious, how do you find yourself being a comedian involved with anime? That's unique. I've never even heard of that.
Well, it really became started on a dare based on my roommates from senior year of college. Is that I went to the New York Comic Con a few years ago, like I guess it was 2005, 2006, and I absolutely fell in love with the energy of the crowd, with all the cosplay, with all the events, and I just started having more fun with people dressed up. I'd walk up to people and drop a little note, drop a little inside joke to whoever they were dressed up as because I recognized all the characters. And I realized I wanted to keep coming to conventions, but I realized being an art student, I didn't have the budget for it. So this really was just a gag and an experiment to see if I could get into more conventions for free. And I went from staffing them in the East Coast until eventually pitching myself as an MC or a host before I was finally given the chance at places like ZenkaiCon in Pennsylvania and the New York Anime Festival to do both a stand-up comedy specific panel and both hosting large events. So this actually ended up becoming an accidental niche that got discovered as most conventions had difficulty placing, well, is this a presentation panel? Do you use a PowerPoint? It's no, there's really just a stage and a microphone, and I'm kind of good to go. Try to use as low tech as possible.
That's actually really neat. So that means that you got to take something you loved and sort of get in for free.
Absolutely. And what it became was almost accidentally cheating. Is that comedians think that I'm just a geek, and geeks think that I'm an actual professional comedian. But the gag is I'm really just doing this just to get into anime conventions because I love anime conventions. But it does a lot of good scratching. It scratches two very big itches of mine, which is the performing and the writing aspect. And I do work on all my own material, but it is interesting how just this niche ended up developing in that I don't have to go out and seek an audience. So long as I show up at a convention and see what the majority of the costumes are wearing, or what the major of the panels are, what the guests are, I know what I'm going to do. A couple of years ago, we were in the middle of the Naruto cosplay where everybody was running around as a Sasuke and a Naruto. So I ended up working on about 10, maybe 20 minutes tops of Naruto-based material. So it's not only that I have to seek out venues, but it's more that my audience comes to me and I go to where my audience is because we're all gathering to do the same thing, and that's enjoy a convention.
Well, that's really cool. And you must have to really think on your feet too.
So much of the time because as a comedian, of course, you got to get heckled, and they end up having me host a lot of live events. I host a lot of cosplay masquerades. I've run a lot of game shows. I've also run a lot of my own discussion panels, and you've got to think on the fly, most importantly, because you never know what you're going to do with the cosplays. There's also just so many conventions that gather people together to do an anime improv show. So right off the bat, you've got to be quick on your feet. We were doing a panel down in Pennsylvania called "How to Survive a Mecha Attack,"
Oh God.
which is one of my favorite presentations to give out. And we had someone stand up and contradict everything we said because he was cosplaying as the main character from Magus XLR. And we're going over the cost of how much it is to build a robot. He says, "I bought mine for $2 in a junkyard in New Jersey. Mechas are impossible to drive. I drive mine with a stick shift." So you got to be ready to give that energy and give that excitement back because whenever you're touching into something geeky, there's always someone who it is their passion, it is their religion. Like I'm almost at a point where I'm ready to start talking about Full Metal Alchemist, but I really want to be careful because Full Metal Alchemist fans are never ready for a Maze Hughes joke. They're almost like the 9/11 of the FMA world. You can't make a joke about Maze Hughes.
That's right. That would be
You can
pretty
talk
bad.
about Scar and Edward all you want, but you cannot even mention the MH in any form of dark humor. So we're still working on that, but I'm hoping to premiere some of that maybe this weekend or maybe at a future convention.
That actually seems like a lot of fun. You get to rub shoulders with a lot of the industry people as well.
lot of the industry people. I'm always fascinated and confused as all heck whenever I'm scheduled to be on a discussion forum with actual voice actors or actual convention guests, because in my mind, I'm just I am in front row seat prime. Like, I'm sitting right next to the people whom I'm going to heckle for their autographs as soon as we go back to the green room. But now that conventions started putting me on a guest list, I have to hold some sort of adult composure and some sort of level of professionalism that, yes, I'm standing right next to Johnny Wong Bosch, and I don't want to, grab his leg and maybe take his shoe as proof that I met him.
I understand that completely. I have to go to conventions as press and obviously interview people like this. And very commonly, I have to be like, I have to stand in line for that autograph, even if that line is 4 hours long.
Well, that is the joy of getting the press pass. The press pass is get out of jail free and skip to the end already. A
That's
lot of
very
the
true.
times I'm amazed at how press badges can actually get more places than I can. Because at a lot of conventions, I'll either get a panelist badge or I'll get a guest badge. And I'm talking to friends for websites that I've written editorials for. And I'll say, "You want to get into the green room?" They say, "Yeah, I'm already there. I'm press. Do you want to get front row seats to the show?" "I'm already here. I have to report it." Oh.
I'm sorry. But you can brag to our listeners because I'm sure our listeners would like those perks.
My badge, it means nothing.
And now I'm curious, what got you into anime in the beginning? Way back when?
Into anime in the beginning, well, growing up in the late 80s and the early 90s, I was, of course, one of those children who was inadvertently raised by the television. Anything that was animated had to watch. And you never knew it was anime until it came out, but at about 6 in the morning, I would run downstairs, because I didn't have to be up for school for another hour, but Sailor Moon was playing, that first dub and a half, that first season and a half, and then they'd switch over to Dragon Ball Z, and then they'd start over again. And this was a good maybe 3-4 years of just watching nonstop, even throughout the summer. But we never knew that it was anime until later on when the Sci-Fi Channel started playing late night anime on like Monday or Friday night. They'd show like Vampire Hunter D, Iria, the reanimation for a lot of our younger viewers. This is going right over their head. But these are like the classic animes that were like ultra bloody. There'd be the potential for full frontal nudity, and every giant robot simply had to explode in a way that just must have inspired Michael Bay to his entire career. So I never really got into anime and full-heartedly until it was the summer of ninth grade, and I had a friend going with me to film camp, and he had perfect subtitled professionally VHSs of Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I would take a videotape home, watch all 3 or 4 episodes, because that's all you could fit on a VHS, and then I would put in a Ziploc bag, put that in the cardboard box, and then hand it to him the next day. He would double check it and switch off, and throughout that summer, I got step by step through the entirety of Evangelion, and that's such a critical series for people in the 90s, because as we were all coming of age at like 12 to 15, we were starting to figure out where we are in the world. Is there something more than Jerry drops an anvil on Tom's head and there's no consequence? Stories like Evangelion and then Trigun and Cowboy Bebop came over, and these were cartoons, but with characters we'd never seen before, characters with change, with consequence, people that we wanted to grow up to be. And it was just so fascinating to watch these stories unfold, especially the first time. I don't think any fan of Cowboy Bebop ever forgets where they were sitting the first time they ever saw the last episode of Cowboy Bebop. The first panel we ever ran at Auticon in Baltimore, we asked that in the whole panel. We were doing a celebration of anime that turned a decade in 2008. So series like groundbreaking stuff like Trigun, Cowboy Bebop, Serial Experiments Lane, and Pokemon, the double-edged sword, because it got all the money into the industry that made anime and Japanese pop culture the boom that it is today. We asked everyone in the audience, where were you the last time Spike Spiegel said, bang?
Oh, gosh.
And I hear that. I have a Bebop fan in the room with me. So everyone had something very consistent. I was in the dark, in front of a screen, in my pajamas. I was alone.
I feel like a loser now.
Well, you know what? It's just one of those experiences that we all share. Like all the people growing up in the 60s and 70s, they remember going to Star Wars and sitting in the front row of the theater. Everyone has the experience of, when I left, I was in love with being a Jedi, and I was in love with Darth Vader, and my neck hurt like heck. And I couldn't wait for it to come out in 3D for the otaku generation. We grew up watching so much stuff, downloading it by accidentally via dial-up. There was no instant clicking connection. There was, oh boy, a new episode of Ava got dubbed. Click, 3 days later, hooray! Oh, file corrupted. Oh,
Oh.
hooray! We were all in those frustrated times. Or you'd gather at a library, and someone would bring in like an 8th generation transferred dub of like Naraku or something that no one ever knew the end to. I had to discover the internet in 10th grade before I even discovered who Trunks was in Dragon Ball Z. And nowadays, everyone just goes, well, yeah, he's Trunks, he's from the future, he's Vegeta and Bulma's son. No one ever told me this. So when I first discovered, I just fell flat on my face. No one knew these huge and amazing twists. It was a lot of discovery for the first time, and that was the big draw of anime, is that it was so adult and yet could somehow appeal to a lot of people, and that it seemed that this fascination that anime and animation in Japan was treated as a medium through which any sort of story could be told. It wasn't simply treated as a genre for kids like we do here in America. If an animated movie is going to be released, How I Tame My Dragon, Shrek, they're all great films that adults can enjoy, but they can enjoy it with their kids, or kids can bring their parents to it. That's sort of the appeal. Over in Japan, I think you'll agree with me on this. There's something for everyone. There's something for really younger kids, the really cute moe things, the Pokemon. There's something for teenage kids, the shoujo and the shonen, and then later on the josei, and then later on potentially the hentai. I'm not here to judge, but there's an audience and there's a show for everybody.
I mean, it's very much like the argument that video games aren't for kids anymore. You can even compare the two.
I don't think they ever were. There are still people who go to that I met at Penny Arcade Expo East and in PAX West who are still sitting there saying, "Does anyone remember color graphics?" And 4 people in the room go, "Yes, I remember that. Oh, that was insane, those old days. Didn't find the electrical outlet for days. You had to walk uphill in the snow both ways to get a new game. There was no Newegg. There was no Amazon. We had to design that on our own. I'm still trying to figure out the ending to Asteroids.
That was
What is the
priceless.
story in Pac-Man? How does it end?" We still
I
don't
think all
know.
the ghosts die. I
But
think it
they're
was a
already,
sad ending.
but they're already dead. They're ghosts.
Well,
But
that's
ghosts
true.
of what? You never know. Is Pac-Man like the original Ghostbusters? Are these all like dead Pac-Man who have come back and haunted him like some strange twist of Macbeth? Or are these just actual ghosts of people trying to hunt down this incomplete circle? And now
What?
we've pulled a very unnecessary level of Pac-Man, and that is analyzing the story of Pac-Man. I apologize.
It's fine. Maybe they're zombies. Now I'm thinking about it, so don't worry.
Okay, so we have so that'll be an unlockable character in the new Left 4 Dead 3 coming out in a few years. Pac-Man.
That wouldn't
Pac-Man will be the
surprise
team
me.
leader. He will stand up front with Arthur from Ghouls and Ghosts.
Oh gosh, that would actually be quite interesting.
Wouldn't you rather just throw a javelin and an old school spear at the zombie? Don't we all just want that? Just a giant undead shish kebab.
Yeah, that would be pretty neat. I think Dead Rising tries to do that sometimes.
Oh, Dead Rising. Dead Rising was so much fun. I just went into a coma of screaming joy until the game realized I wasn't doing any subplots and had to end it. So we just restarted and went right back to where we were. The joy was, for me, was collecting an entire arsenal of electric guitars and just running across zombies screaming, "Rock and roll will never die." But the
We were
guitar was fast, it was durable, it would bounce them if you downswing when they were on the ground. It was just joy.
We were actually talking about Dead Rising 2 during our news feel a little bit earlier, and they've announced that you can combine more items together, and a few examples of them were actually like knives you could attach to a toy airplane's blades and throw them through the zombies.
I need this now. Like, why do we have to wait for this? That's incredible.
I know. You can also vomit at any time if you eat spoiled food or if you drink too much because you're in Las Vegas. So
Well, I mean, that just comes with the territory. I had no idea that they were merging with Grand Theft Auto, Grand Theft Zombie.
that'll be very interesting. Now, I am curious to get a little bit back in topic. Where necessarily do you go to the conventions? Is it mostly in the New York area?
hmm I'm centralized in New York City, so a majority of my gigs are going to come from the Northeast. I did earlier this year run through a 6-week, 7-convention straight tour. I started in the Midwest. I did Anime Land Wasabi. Shout out to my friends out in Denver. They've also hosted me in cities like Albuquerque. Went out to Anime Milwaukee up in Wisconsin. First time in my life out there, and then I went down to Kamikaze Con out in Houston, Texas. It was my first time in all those states, and all I could think of, well, wow, every Holiday Inn truly does look the same. I am hoping to get out to visit you guys out in the West Coast someday. I'm still waiting to hear back on Anime Expo, but if not, Portland, Seattle, those all have great shows, and I can't wait to go there because for me it'd be a first timer. I'm born and raised in the Northeast, so I have never really left the Atlantic Ocean border.
Well, maybe we will catch you at a convention. We go to quite a few as well. I think about 15 this year. Our next one is Anime Central. So maybe
Most
one day.
excellent. Most excellent. And I get a lot of emails from fans and people such who visit the website, and I do make it very easy to contact me. But the one thing that they always ask is, can you come to this convention? Which is interesting because it's like emailing Lady Gaga, hi, can you perform at my school? I'm sure you got nothing else going on. I see you in music videos, TV interviews, running on movies all the time. Is there a chance you can just like stop by my place for birthday? And I always tell fans, if you want to get any convention guest, this goes for voice actors, goes for bands. If you want to get anyone at your local convention, you have to go to the website of the anime con you want to go to, and spam their message boards. Just demand we need such and such. We need Vic Mignogna. We need to have the Lead Street Boys. We need Kylie Bear. We need Uncle Yo. We need Warky. We need anyone that we can get.
Oh, definitely. I
'Cause
mean, I think a
yeah,
lot of voice actors are pretty uncomfortable going to a convention and being, hey, I want
it
to
really is
get
because
there.
it's similar to crashing a party. It's going to a wedding that you really weren't invited for.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And so I think a
And
lot
I'll
of
tell you
listeners
from
out
firsthand
there,
experience, that is horribly awkward. You do not get cake.
the cake is a lie.
Turns out to be if you're not invited to the party.
But hopefully our listeners will invite you to their nearby convention parties, so make sure to do that because he'll enjoy it, I'm sure.
Fingers crossed. I am always up for making new friends and exploring new parts of the country. It's been a lot of fun. I met so many new people throughout this tour. I got to re-meet with old people and really get closer to friends that I'd made last year. And it really is such a thrill sometimes returning to a convention year after year. Some conventions I've gone to as many as 3 straight years in a row. And I know some of our older listeners are shrugging. I invented anime conventions 15 years ago. But it's just a warm feeling like to go and see a staff run by what is essentially this family that gathers for 2 or 3 months out of the year just to put on a huge show.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Conventions in their own right are amazing, and more people just keep going.
hmm More people keep going, more people start staffing. Staffing is probably the best and quickest way to get into a convention, and if you volunteer long enough, a lot of times they'll give you a free shirt, or they may even just comp your badge. If you do security for a lot of conventions, which is mainly standing at the door, keeping people in line, making sure no one gets hurt, which is very easy to do, they'll get you into the convention for free, and they may just set you up with a room, and before you know it, you might be security online for that voice actor's signature that you might need, or you might be stuck on guest relations, and oh, boo-hoo, I have to drive the guest of honor out to a restaurant and chill out with him and have him a good time.
I think a
What a
lot of
hard
listeners
night.
out there would be so just distraught over that. But we will discuss this in the background while they fear and cower at the job because we're going to go to a short break here on 91.8 The Fan. Everything you want, nothing you don't. Stay tuned for the rest of the interview.
Yo, Anaquel here. Do you like games? I like games. Would you want to buy your games at some crappy, I'm not going to name it, game store? No, you wouldn't. You would buy games at Game Tag because that's the place to buy your games. You rent games at some other crappy, I'm going to leave it unnamed, game rental place? No, you wouldn't. You would rent your games at Game Tag because all their used games are rentable. Do that.
Hey everybody, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're still in the corner, and I'm still ruling the corner, but I'm ruling it with someone very funny by my side. It's Uncle Yo.
Glad to be back. Biggest fan since Tamari from Naruto.
Now, I was curious, we were asking, where can we track your progress? What conventions you're going to?
I always try to keep up my list on my MySpace, which is, of course, myspace.com/uncle_yo, I believe. But my main site, www.uncleyo.com, we try to keep up shows, keep up the announcements going on the front page, and I pretty much try to let people know what I'm doing a week in advance, either through my Twitter account at www.twitter.com/uncle_yo. No, I believe it's Uncle Yo, all one word. It's MySpace that has the underdash. Don't want to mess anyone with that. Besides the MySpace, I believe there's also a Facebook page floating around. But I try to personally, I update both UncleYo.com and my MySpace as often as possible, just to keep up on other projects. I mean, like I got Anime Next coming up in New Jersey later this year, and I'll be leaping around to a new convention starting up in Philadelphia this year. But I'm very excited to come back to ConnectiCon for my third straight year up in Hartford, Connecticut, because I got a lot of projects coming up this year, and I can't wait to announce the big one later this summer at Anime Next.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Are there any of them you can talk about or promote now, or are they still under wraps?
A lot of it is very tightly under wraps. I will just say that for people who have visited the shop page, you notice that I have 2 CDs out. They never told me not to. My first CD. And then my second one, complete with fangirl screaming, entitled What's the Hell Your Heart, based on my favorite English subtitling ever. We are working on adding new media. We had it filmed earlier this year, and the hope is that we can burn it to something disc-like that may or may not fit within your DVD player.
Ooh, it sounds like something that our listeners need to pick up when that comes out.
Got a few months in the process. We're still in the middle of post-production and editing, but I'm really happy with how this show turned out. That was the whole point of my spring tour, was just get another solid show out. And I knew I had it once I started talking about that 28-year-old Korean man married now to his body pillow. Wish you a long, happy life, and may the threads never come unfurled.
Oh God. I was wondering, is there anything else you want to let our listeners know about?
Anything else coming up with me? I'm always in the middle of workshopping or practicing something up here in New York City. Like, since most of my venues end up being conventions, I am branching out to try and do a little more mainstream stuff. This weekend in Brooklyn, New York, here at the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens now, we're plotting New York's first public cosplay fashion show at the Brooklyn Botanical Garden, and be released at the Sakura Matsuri Cherry Blossom Festival later this week. I'm also going to be working with the Japan Society right down by the UN here in New York City. We're going to be doing a very large-scale fashion show, and I cannot wait to see how that is going to go down. This is my first year hosting, and it's a fantastic venue space. It got a huge result last year, and we're just hoping to keep up the energy and maybe premiere a couple things, maybe premiere a movie. We don't know yet.
Ooh. So listeners, watch out for that. And before we let you go, we were wondering if you'd participate in a 91.8 The Fan tradition.
I'm ready when you are.
We ask everybody who comes on if they'd be willing to perform a bump for us.
Perform a who press?
No, a bump. Basically a line. Say a line for us.
There are so many.
Well, actually, we usually ask if you could say a certain line.
Okay. Works for me.
We were wondering if you could say, "My name is, I do this, and you're tuned into 91.8 The Fan."
You got it.
Whenever you're ready.
This is Carl, Uncle Yo Custer. You are listening to 91.8 The Fan. Keeping in mind, living it real, Otaku Nation. Live, laugh, and glomp.
Oh, nice spin on there. I love it. No bloopers.
That's how we try to roll.
You're even better than some of the voice actors that come on. You can brag about that.
Oh, for sure.
And thank you so much for the interview. It was very awesome having you on, and hopefully we can catch you at a convention sometime soon.
My pleasure, Jackie.
And for everybody out there, if you missed any of this interview, shame on you, but it will be up on the website within the next few days. So keep it tuned to 91.8 The Fan, everything you want, nothing you don't.